Welcome to Voodoo Whiskey Gaming, and this is my late review of Echoes of the End. I played it on the PS5. It's also available on the Xbox Series and PC. So let's get into the story. You play as Rin. Her and her brother Kor are doing their job as rangers, and they're patrolling the wilderness in their land. When basically out of nowhere, one of the wards that protects their lands blows up. Turns out that a small band of their enemies have found their way in and found out that they can use their own personal vestige to destroy the wards. Now Rin, being a vestige as well, is gonna try and, do the whole hero shtick. Fortunately, along the way, she meets an elder who can, help teach her some things. And I'm gonna tell you right now, I felt like the story was pretty damn generic, and it takes a while for anything to really get moving, and then it gets moving, and then it stops, and then it's just drip fed to you, and it gets kind of frustrating. Nearer to the end, you start to get more and more and learn more and more, and it starts to get better. But at the end of the day, it's still fairly generic, and it didn't quite do what I needed it to do to really get me invested. Now let's move on to the audio, and the first thing I'm gonna say is, there was music. I know there was. That's about how much I remember of it because it just never stood out to me. Then you've got the voiceover work. They're not the best. Some of it is definitely better than others. I definitely think one of the villains, she really played into it. And I think that kind of worked for her. Although she's hamming it up and others aren't, I think that was kind of fun for that actress to do, but the rest just kind of brought everything else down. Not that they were the worst I've ever heard, but they were also far from the best. As for the sound effects, overall, I thought the sound effects were good, except for all the missing sound effects. All the times you're putting your sword away, drawing your sword, interacting with something, and you don't hear a sound effect where you should. When that's not happening, the sound effects are good. And then let's get into the gameplay mechanics and whatnot, and this is like a third-person action RPG. You don't necessarily level up, but you do gain XP to buy skills. It's not enhancing your health or mana or things like that. And as I mentioned in the story part, you play as Rin, who is a vestige, which basically means she has magical powers that most of the other people do not. And like any good action RPG, you are running through a world, killing enemies, fighting enemies, solving puzzles. There is some exploration to it, not a ton. Generally, when you go off to explore, you do find another kind of puzzle thing to find a chest, which will give you an item that explains some lore, gives you XP. Sometimes it'll give you a stone that'll boost your health or magic. This is also a fairly linear game, and they do continue to add things, but they really don't start adding things until you're pretty deep into the game. And they're not like really awesome, like game-changing things. They're just like, oh, now you can double jump. Oh, now you can jump and dash. Oh, now there's more stuff for the puzzles. And since I'm discussing the puzzles, I gotta point out one thing that just pissed me the fuck off, like immediately with the puzzles. This game doesn't want you to do the puzzles. It doesn't want you to play the fucking game. And I say that because you're 30 seconds into a puzzle, you haven't even figured out the fucking mechanics yet. And then down at the bottom, you've got like hold down on the D-pad so that we can give you an answer and tell you how to get through this fucking thing. And it's not just the first puzzle, it's every puzzle. They just immediately are like, here, give up. Don't try and figure out the puzzle, just give up. And I found that just really annoying, and it's like, then why the fuck did you make a game if you don't want me to take the time, figure out the puzzles, and then solve the puzzles? And the worst part about it, the most insulting part about it, is none of these puzzles were like mind-shatteringly hard. Just long and short of the puzzles is they just don't really give you the chance. And it even comes to some of the smaller things where a character will just be like, here, it's right here, that's what you need to do. You didn't even get a chance to fucking look for the thing you needed to do. Just things like that really annoyed me. Like even PlayStation, I got a PlayStation message pop up while I'm playing the game telling me that I can, get hints and tips and all of that shit. It's like nobody wants you to do the fucking puzzles in this game, so you kind of wonder why there's puzzles at all in this game. But on top of that, and it did fade eventually, like early on, anytime you go exploring for a chest, somebody bitches at you that like they've already come from that way, that's the wrong way, blah blah blah. And it's like, I know it's the way you came from, I didn't come from that way, I want to see if there's anything there. And oh, guess what, there's fucking chests there. And I seem really annoyed by that because it is annoying, because like I said, it makes you feel like they don't want you to actually put time into the game, and it makes you sit there and question why the fuck you're putting time into the game. But let's get on to the combat, and the combat it's there. It's not great. It feels like it was designed to fight like 2, 3, at most 4 enemies at a time, but then they throw like 5 or 6 enemies at you at a time, and it really just doesn't work as well at that point. It doesn't help that mechanics don't work particularly well, or they're kind of weird and crap in some ways. And what do I mean by that? I mean, the lock-on mechanic is weird. You'll lock onto a guy and instead you'll start swinging at the guy who's next to you, who's closest to you. But when you're doing like the soft lock-on, you're not like intentionally doing it. You'll start swinging at the guy who's 20 feet away instead of the guy who's right next to you that you're hoping, you know, having not locked onto somebody, you'll be attacking. So that just doesn't work the way you need it to, which also goes with your companion. They'll fire at fucking anyone. Like, again, not somebody you're actually like trying to get, somebody you're not even necessarily locked onto, but they'll attack them. They'll blast them, even if you're locked onto somebody. Like a hard lock on, sometimes they won't attack them. And then I really didn't love the blocking and parrying. I did use the dodging a lot, which also is weird and janky. It's more about whether or not you press dodge at the right time than if they're hitting anywhere near your hitbox. There were multiple times where I was in the middle of a roll and they were swinging way the fuck over me, and yet I still took damage even though their weapon didn't make contact with me. But because I had already engaged the roll before their attack, I still got hit. And eventually you figure out that mechanic and it starts to work a bit better. It does not work great in the group environments again, because I still just don't feel like it was built for those. Also, with your powers, you can throw enemies and objects at things, but like the system is not well designed and the targeting doesn't always work the way you want or need it to. So all of this just makes the combat kind of suck. Let's move on to the controls, and it's okay. They're not what you need them to be. Like when you're trying to swing, that's responsive. When you're trying to trigger a dodge, that's responsive most of the time. I had times where the game just went, fuck you, no, you didn't press any buttons. But the biggest problem I had was with the dodging. I would be trying to dodge backwards and my character would roll to the side or even forwards. Or when I was trying to dodge to the side, it would go backwards. There was just no consistency. The controls were not actually doing what I needed them to do or was actually doing with my controller. I'll also say that I don't find that the movement is super precise, and there are some of the puzzles where that got frustrating because you're trying to land on this tiny beam and it just lacks the precision needed. One of the problems being also a little bit gameplay there is the jump is really just a vertical jump. It doesn't do a lot to launch you forward, not enough anyways, and at times that can be problematic. Oh, and also I had issues with the camera. When I play on a controller, I like the inverted camera. The problem with this game is when you're climbing a wall or shimmying along a ledge, the camera switches to normal. So if you're normal, it's probably still rocking normal, but if you're rocking inverted like I do, it will switch back to a normal camera. So you're kind of switching between the two, and it threw me off a lot throughout the game because I'd get done climbing something and now I'm trying to like readjust my camera, but I'm doing it in the opposite direction because it's not sticking to the settings that I was using. Now let's move on to the graphics and visuals, and it's a pretty good looking game, but as I've said multiple times, a lot of games are pretty good looking games nowadays. But there are things that don't look as good in this game. Like oddly enough, there's a few characters with facial hair and somehow their beards look worse than the fur on their coats. I'm like, okay, why didn't you put more detail into that? I will say, I think the designs of the characters, they're pretty good. Some of them are a little generic. I do like their outfits. I thought those were pretty cool. I thought that Rin's sword was actually a cool design. And I think a lot of the landscapes are really good looking. There's some times where you kind of have a moment to just pause and look at some of these beautiful vistas that they've put together, and they look awesome. Unfortunately, a lot of the animations throughout this game for the characters look like shit. The combat ones aren't too bad, but I really noticed the jumping animation is kind of shit. It doesn't look like you're jumping. It looks like you're just kind of suddenly launched into the air. When you're climbing, it looks very much like you're floating and you're not really in contact with the wall. And you do a lot of climbing, so it gets pretty noticeable. And a lot of jumping for the puzzles. And it gets pretty noticeable, but it's not even just there. It's in the cutscenes. It doesn't look like these were actually acted out and captured. It looks like somebody animated these, and poorly. There was also definitely texture popping. Like I saw a dude whose face was basically a mannequin, and then all of a sudden he looked like who he was supposed to, which was weird because it was basically like, oh, he's normal. Then you like cut to my character, then you cut back to him and he's now a mannequin, and then features come in. That was crap looking. I tried to capture another weird glitch that I had where my companion character basically split into two like see-through versions of himself, and one of them was halfway glitched through the boat we were in, and the other was sitting normal. And when I took a screenshot, it just was like, nah, fuck you, it looks normal, which it really didn't for over a minute when I was paddling this boat around. So that was kind of frustrating that I couldn't get a good capture of that. Is that the game's fault? No. And then last but not least, like other issues I had was the game crashed on me multiple times. That was very frustrating. So to get into the wrap up, I think it's pretty obvious that I really didn't enjoy this experience. I do think if all of the mechanics worked well, the combat, the puzzles, and they weren't trying to tell you to not play their fucking game, I could say that this was a mediocre game. But as it stands, with all the little things that just chip away at the overall quality of it, and the fact that it doesn't seem to want you to play it, and it shoves that in your face in every single puzzle. You even get trophies for not using hints, and it's like, they're not that hard, guys, come on. All of that combined just makes me hate the fact that I spent money on this game. And I will say that I was getting to a point where I was like, I can't wait to say that there was nothing I enjoyed about this game. Until I was in a volcano and there were some great pop culture references, one to Anakin and one to Lord of the Rings. I really enjoyed that. I liked that in the game. But I can honestly say I don't have a problem saying don't play this game. I have no problem telling you don't spend your money on it, don't spend your time on it. I will never get that time back. I will never get that money back, and it hurts me on the inside. Okay, so in the comments down below, why don't you tell me, was there ever a game that just made you feel that way, where it hurt you on the inside, that you had given your time and money? And if so, what game was it? As always, thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please hit that like button, and if you like what I'm doing in general, share and subscribe. Have a good one.